just what are you paying attention to thematically, oil and gas or energy broadly going into 2025? What has you interested? What are you interested in, and what's your company's paying attention to?
What are we thinking about for 2025? Very relevant question. Every year for the last 10 plus, I've gone out to Midland and done a forecast lunch and talked to the folks in the Permian Basin about how we see 2020, next year, 2025 shaping up. Did that a couple of weeks ago, and so it's very timely. Um, it's a murkier outlook right now than it was, this time last year, this time, looking into 23. Why? Because I think we've got a commodity market on the oil side for sure that is balanced at best, maybe skewed to slightly oversupplied. You've got OPEC that says they want to come back, so we really have no space for them. And so you wind up saying, wow, things could go south here on the macro from an oil perspective pretty quickly. I don't think they will, importantly, but they could. So it's kind of the crystal ball gets a little bit murky because there are a lot of external events, geopolitical things, OPEC things that make it tougher. Flip to the gas side, and it feels better. The markets. I'm saying the consensus essentially for both oil and gas. People are scared of oil. They're excited about gas. I think directionally that's probably the right trend to be. Um, and then the other question as an investor is what is going to change that makes people care about our sector again? Coming out of COVID, we were off, right? It was awful. The oil price went negative briefly, as we all know. And then, energy in 21 and 22 is the best group in the market. 23 lagged by 2,600 basis points. 24 were lagging by 1,500 basis points, something like that. And as I stare into 2025, wow, do we have a murky outlook for oil? Tech's still running. The market's making new highs. Energy stocks kind of aren't. Where's the money flow come from? And so we have really cheap stocks, high free cash yields, great discipline, but kind of a scary outlook a little bit. Um, and so, maybe it's more of the same where the companies are doing really well and they just continue to trade cheap. So those are some of the things that I'm thinking about big picture wise as we go into 25.
It kind of feels bearish. It's hard to put your finger on the exact reason. I mean, some of the things that you've mentioned, OPEC obviously is a big question mark, but what we're seeing out of China is a little freaky. They got a bunch of this kind of record stimulus plans coming up, and they still had a bunch of issues. Just demand in general. I think pretty sure I saw a report that OPEC's kind of continually revising down what they think for demand, and it's one of those deals too where I know they say elections. I've heard you talk about it on mainstream media and on podcasts and things, but do they really matter? Maybe, kind of, maybe not. But it still feels like Trump clearly wants prices to be lower. So there's just kind of an eerie feeling. And then also too, if you look back at like the last 10 years, taking out the whipsaw of COVID and then the rebound, it was like 55 is kind of the average, or 50-ish. And then if you add in those times, maybe it's in the 60s. It's like, is that the new floor? Do we range bound higher? Do we kind of regress back down to where we were from 2014 to 2020? There's just a lot of production out there, especially considering what OPEC's doing. And I don't know. I'm wondering, is there going to be like a Trump surprise? Is he going to try to strike a deal? And would OPEC even care? Do they care about market share anymore?